we can get in depth about this, right? Because I saw this up here, and you might actually be able to tell me more about this, right? Because I retweeted this and everything, right? The tabletop game dudes, you guys are under attack, and I don't
forever to work this out.
I don't even know. Have you worked it out? I'm still trying to figure it. I've been looking at this for ages. Do they think the eyeball things on the limbs are wheels? Like, what's happening here? But what game is this from? And I'll explain what's happening as well. Right? Basically,
this is from Dungeons and Dragons. This is called a Beholder, and they're these creatures that live under the ground. They're awful. They're selfish. They're pure evil. And one of the big pushes in against D&D at the moment is they're trying to get rid of the idea that any particular race is evil. And the big problem is, for years and years, as long as D&D's been around, they've referred to other species as races. And there's a lot of inside baseball, there's a lot of deep lore, because really elves have got there is parallels with other races in the way they do things. You can draw those parallels there. You can't really deny them. So they called them races when they really should have called them species, because there's there's not really anything such as speciesism. So what they're doing
just because we can find parallels with one of the races doesn't mean we can find parallels with all the races.
No, that's true. That's true. But that's how they're trying to cull everything. They're making it all about race. So beholders live under the ground. They're cowardly. They're evil. They're terrible. And they're intrinsically evil. This is the idea they're trying to get rid of, that somehow orcs are born evil. They're born violent, born rapacious. They're born unable to control themselves. They're born warlike. They want to conquer. They want to hurt. They want to kill. They enjoy it. It's what their society holds up as
they're monsters.
They're monsters. And of course, the woke crowd draws parallels between that and real life people, not even realizing how that denotes their own racism. Same thing with the elves. A lot of people draw parallels between elves and Asians because of their finer features, their culture.
Swordsmanship. Because the elves have slanty eyes. It's like, you're not allowed to say that.
I didn't even think of that, honestly, but all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you look at someone like Donnie Yen. He doesn't even look like he's human. He looks like some sort of ethereal angelic being or some shit, you know. So there's parallels of
good-looking dude.
Yeah. And then people have accused Tolkien of drawing parallels between dwarves and Jews because of their the industries that they work in, you know, Jews,
the gold, the affinity for gold and stuff,
that sort of thing. So with the beholders in particular, it's being seen as like the launch pad for this idea of getting rid of evil races, and on top of that, they're also saying that beholders have got like one eye, so there's like a disabled people thing, there's people with missing an eye sort of thing.
They're born with the inability to control themselves.
All that sort of stuff. So they're pushing that, and they're trying to remove them either altogether from D&D, or they're trying to change the long-held law that these things are intrinsically evil. They've done it with the Drow. Drow are dark elves that live under the ground. They live in a cave system. They're a matriarchal society. They worship spiders and spider gods. They've got like a BDSM slant to them if you want to play that angle up, but you don't have to. The funny thing about all this, though, is that if I sit down at my table with my friends playing D&D, I don't really have any friends, and I want to be honest, to continue being evil, it will continue to be evil. It doesn't matter what you do in the book. Very few people actually sit down and play the book-ready, book-available version of D&D. Yeah. There's always interpretations. You know, some people are going to have their...
That's what a lot of the people said on my quote tweet as well. Like, Frog G filled me with hope because, you know, like as I said, I don't play tabletop games, but I honestly think that we should go back up the tabletop game guys. You know, like if they're going to start dealing with woke assholes, it's like they don't really know what they're dealing with, you know? And then I had this whole point about, like, if Gamergate had followed them into comics, like we would have outnumbered them a long time ago and shit like that. Like, so, like, you know, not that I expected that of the guys from Gamergate, but it's, you know, it would have been nice. And so it's like, now we're in this position, we can't leave them to just destroy something else. Well, but then, as I said, Frog G and that made me feel really hopeful about it, because you got, it's not like comic books. You guys can just live with, like, you know, the book that you've already got and use those rules for forever.
All they're going to do is make it super woke. The sales are going to drop. There'll be a temporary spike, but they'll drop. People won't engage. D&D's got a lot more popular lately. I blame Stranger Things and the people who broadcast their D&D sessions. I've turned it into a complete joke of what it used to be. I don't like it, but I don't engage with it. It's not made for me, you know?
Yeah.
But you can definitely pick. I mean, a lot of people still play Chainmail, the first edition of D&D. Some people play second edition, because they like the reversal of the Thaco rule. A lot of people still play 3.5 because it's got the most content out there. A lot of people play Pathfinder because it's a quote-unquote better version of 3.5.
I don't know what any of that is.
That's okay. I'm just showing off. 4th edition is super easy to pick up. You know, like I played it alongside Bandito and a few of the other guys, Shay and that sort of thing. And I hadn't played it before, and it's just so easy to slot into it because everything's just like cooldown powers on a World of Warcraft game. So we don't need these people. They're not really making anything new. Nobody needs a 6th edition of D&D. We've already got 5 of them, and all 5 of them work doing 5 different jobs. You like the old classic stuff, pick up Chainmail. You like 2nd edition with its wealth of information and reverse Thaco, pick up that. You like 3.5. There's more stuff for 3.5 than probably every other edition put together. You spoil for choice. You like playing World of Warcraft, pick up 4th edition. 5th edition is the new one. I don't really know how that goes. I haven't had much of a look at it. But with 5 editions, we don't need a 6, and we don't need one that's woker than any of the others. So they're going to lose this battle. They come across from Magic the Gathering. You know, there's links.
We spoke about that artist. We spoke about the artist that got fired not long ago, and she's female. She's a female Asian, and she was awesome at everything she'd done. The only reason I even knew who she was is because she was just that good at painting. But they fired her because she wasn't woke.
That's right.
So it's a fucking shame. It really is. But yeah, it looks like it's all going down. Like tabletop games next, and anime as well.
Yep. They've been hitting up Games Workshop for a while now. They've been trying to push into that area, which really makes me worry because they don't see that it's satire. They don't see that it's tongue in cheek. They don't see that it's meant to be over the top. That's the whole point. When you see how xenophobic and over the top and extremism and how zealous the Imperium of Man is taken to a ridiculous degree. And in that, there's
that thing doesn't even look human. You know how, like, even when we create monsters, right? Like, sometimes they'll have a skull face, or like they'll still have 2 eyes and they'll be humanoid. Outside of having a mouth and a tongue, like it has 1 eye, and are those even eyes on its limbs?
Yeah, they are.
You know, like it doesn't look human at all. There is nothing human about this thing.
Shoots different eye beams and stuff that has different effects. It can affect your mind.
This is a real stretch. This is a real stretch to say this thing's human.
So the fact that people are not only championing this thing's rights, but this thing doesn't even exist, but it doesn't even look human. Like there's layers of disaffectedness here. Like what victory do you think? What victory do they think they're going to win through this? It's not about It's not really about defending the beholder's rights. It's about controlling the language. If they control what racist means, if they can, and this is why I said at the beginning, the biggest mistake Gary Gygax probably ever made was referring to things by race as opposed to species. Dwarves are not the same race as human. Typically in D&D, they don't tend to be able to interbreed. There's some people that do homebrew stuff that lets them do that, but that's not typically how it is. If you're a grown man and you fuck a dwarf woman, like a girl Gimli, you're not going to have a half dwarf, half human baby. They're not interrelated, so they're not the same species. They're not the same race. And the big problem is using the word race because they jumped on that. When you said, the race of orcs is inherently evil.
Orcs are clearly black people. Clearly.
Well, the thing is there's societal parallels with the way that the weapons they use, the armor they use. Very often orcs have got like an African themed look.
Yeah, if you can put even the slightest connection, that's all they need, is the tiniest, slightest connection. No matter how shit of a connection it is, like, that's all they need. That's more than enough. And then they're going to go with that forever.
And it might have been rooted in the old Flash Gordon comics. He fought an evil prince on Planet Mongo, and the evil prince was slant-eyed and yellow and related to Ming the Merciless. And once he defeated the prince ended up joining Flash Gordon's team. And then the next time the prince turned up in the comic, he was white and blonde. Like they just straight up race swapped the dude because now he's a good guy. He can't be a slant-eyed yellowed Mongoloid. You know, like they were very on the nose. But this is like 1930 something. Because Tolkien wrote his book so long ago, people are trying to draw parallels between orcs and different races. And because Tolkien has influenced everything that's come after him, everything in D&D, there wouldn't be D&D without Tolkien.
There wouldn't really be fantasy. Like the whole fantasy genre is kind of his fault.
It'd be more skewed towards Robert Howard and the stuff he did with Conan and guys like that who were operating in that time. Fantasy would look very different.
Maybe even like Cthulhu and stuff, like they would have lent real heavy into that direction.
Well, there's overlap between that because H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard used to communicate to each other with letters, and a lot of the evil gods and monsters that Conan fought were inspired by Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. So the early stages of one is putting it together. So there's some great overlap between sword and sorcery and the Cthulhu mythos. Too many orcs and dwarfs and BDSM Reddits.
yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it, Richard? This is like, I'm losing faith in the world, you know, like if it wasn't for everyone, like thank you to CG and everything, right? Because you guys give me hope on the daily, right? If I didn't know that there were other people out there that agreed with me and like we were actually laughing at all this shit together, like I would have lost all hope a long time ago, honestly.